So really to understand the point that we want to make from these two slides is when we compare Generation 1, Generation 2, and Generation 3 learning environments, we have to understand that Generation 1 is still relevant. It's good for skills training, narrow-focused drills for honing our skills like in math or grammar or phonics or testing. Will it always be relevant? Probably. But these are snapshot tests, like when I wake up in the morning and someone takes a picture of me and my hair is all messy, you know, and I haven't washed my face yet, and they go around and put that on Instagram and say, this is what Jeff looks like. I'm like, no, I'm in a stream of time. So I would like to compare a Generation 3 learning environment with a video clip and a Generation 1 learning experience with a snapshot. But it's still relevant. And then contextual learning. These are thesis structures with main points and supporting details. They're rich, complex, sophisticated webs of interconnected of knowledge. These are quite different animals. I mean, this is where I want the student to become interested and become excited and become creative. And I want them to improve their ability to analyze along a trajectory of related elements and come out with some kind of heightened decision process, right? Some heightened conceptual awareness that excites them and that they can apply in their life. Whereas skills training is important too, but it's different, right? It's quite different, and contextual learning is harder. I mean, you saw in the IDE how it was much harder to create these contextual learning assets than it is to create just the skills training assets. What Generation 2 does is it adapts to the student, right? It gives them more difficult or less difficult tasks based on their real-time performance. And I think the point to be made here, one thing that large language models have done is given us the ability to use adaptivity with open-ended questions, right? I mean, if I look back here again, and I think that if I can't check a student's open-ended questions, if I can't grade them on the fly, then I have just unplugged my adaptivity. I can't make a decision based on that output. I can't make a decision in the moment based on that student's open-ended answer. I have to wait until later. The student goes home, the teacher comes in and grades it, and you lose your real-time adaptivity. So large language models have really, this is one of the major advancements in adaptive learning that we've gotten from being able to do some open-ended analysis. Well, I'd like to ask a question. As we move to Generation 3 environments, are the Generation 1 assets, Generation 2 assets, are they obsolete? And the answer comes in thinking back to standards again. If you've defined your standards, like here's our standards, and how many assets could exist to support this standard? You could have video and audio, you could have text and image, you could have 10 videos or 100 videos to support this one illustrations or examples or supporting details. How many is too many? It's just like here, if we have overabundance of content, we don't have to feed the student all the content, do we? What we can do is we can modify the experience of that student in the Generation 3 environment. And the more diversity of assets we have, the more we can customize the environment for the student. So really, in a sense, if you think of your learning assets as just standards-based, and under that one very specific standard, you're building a larger cloud of learning assets, and then you have a much more valuable data set. And so for legacy publishers who have a lot of pseudo-analog, like PDF-based material or whatever, we can build processes to go in and analyze and classify those learning assets, and then cluster them in these standard-based clusters, and then provide much richer learning experience as we mix these learning assets with information about this learner, because the information about this learner is going to inform the system on which learning assets would be best to use.